I'm Adrazor, and this is a devlog tour about the mainland. Nice to finally see you guys. Today you're gonna learn more about how the melee stuff work, how the collisions work, how the ranged weapons work, all that stuff. But before we start, I want you to know about two good news. First, the demo. There will be a huge Steam festival in October, so the demo should be ready before the October, and maybe I'll make a couple of demos just before it. I'm not sure about it yet, but I'll try to do it. And also, I've just opened a Patreon page for my game, so if you want to support Mainland, you're more than welcome to do it by subscribing on Patreon. Links will be in the description, and now let's learn a bit more about the Mainland.
Mainland uses a familiar system of strikes. In melee combat, there are 4 strike directions, 3 for slashing attacks and 1 downward for thrusting. The same 4 directions are used for blocking. The explanation might be a bit complicated, but it should be interesting for some players. Blocking upper and lower strikes is only possible with the upper and lower blocks respectively. Slashing strikes from the left and right can be blocked with both left and right blocks if positioned correctly. During an attack, calculations are made relative to the positions of the attacker and defender. Blocking only protects against strikes within 120 degrees of the defender's line of sight. Any strikes outside this angle will be successful. For left and right blocks, the protection angle shifts 45 degrees in the corresponding direction. However, the attacker's strike direction is also important, as it changes the angle by 30 degrees in the corresponding direction. Thus, for example, strikes from behind will always be successful, but when blocking from the left, if the enemy is slightly to the right of you, both left and right strikes can be blocked. However, if the enemy moves more than 15 degrees, the left strike will be successful. Shield blocking also provides 120 degrees of protection, but against all types of strikes. And although the developer found these values to be optimal, they are not final and may change after playtests. During a battle, it's important for you to know not only that you hit the enemy, but also where exactly you hit them. To achieve this, if a unit is near the player, the unit's collision detection is enabled. This reacts to strikes and allows you to know precisely where the hit landed. This information is then used to calculate the armor at that body part and the damage dealt. When drawing an arrow with a bow, the aim will narrow to a certain point, depending on your archery skill. The key point is that there is an ideal moment to release the arrow. This moment occurs during the maximum draw of the arrow and lasts for less than a second. You can still aim for some time after drawing the arrow, but accuracy will be highest if you release the arrow immediately after reaching full draw. The principle is similar to how melee collisions work, but with arrows. During the arrow's flight, units that are nearby momentarily enable collision detection to better determine the hit. With this approach, hits and misses are registered with high accuracy. Just recently, the system for blood splatter on hits that penetrate armor and blood pools on the ground after strikes was completed. With these additions, it becomes even easier to understand when a hit was successful, and piles of bodies also look better with bloodstains everywhere. The recently added battle sounds significantly enhance the gameplay. Now footsteps, strikes, swings, and more have appropriate sounds. This aspect of the game still requires some optimization and additions, such as warrior cries, but the improvement is already noticeable. Another system that was created is the armor system. Upon a hit, there is a check for what weapon was used and what type of armor was struck. Armor values are directly subtracted from the weapon's damage value. Currently, there are 3 types of damage: slashing, piercing, and blunt. Slashing damage is reduced by the full armor value. Piercing damage is reduced by up to 25% of the damage. blunt damage is reduced by up to 50% of the damage. In the future, the system can be made more complex by adding several types of armor and their different interactions with various types of damage. At the moment, a fairly simple troop control system has been implemented. You can hold position, follow the player, attack the nearest enemies, or simply stop in place. Before launching early access, more options are planned to be added, such as raise shields or cancel free fire. Major improvements for commanding, like different troop formations and more convenient distribution among units, will be developed after improving unit movement, which will be discussed later. Currently, the limit is set to 1,000 units in single player and 400 units in cooperative mode. Of course, you can adjust the maximum number of units based on your computer's performance. When playing on developer's PC with 400 units, the FPS drops to 60, and with 1,000 units it can drop to 30. However, most of the load is on the CPU, and there are several ways to optimize it, so there's no need to worry too much about this. The limit in cooperative mode is mainly due to network load during large battles, and this issue requires a lot of playtesting before we can determine the optimal number of units for cooperative play. Regarding cavalry, the answer is yes, it will be included, but not in early access. It's a massive amount of work, so cavalry is planned for the full release of the game. Attentive players may have already noticed that sometimes units move strangely during combat. This is primarily because units currently only know how to move forward. This is a significant issue that will be improved either before early access or immediately after it. Endurance in battle is a very interesting mechanic that might appear in Mainland. Most likely it won't be available by the start of early access, but it will definitely be introduced later on. Like many other aspects of the game, it will be customizable and can be disabled. After all, it is a sandbox game.